Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the latest episode of Coach to Influence, where we bring together great sales leaders, managers, in this case, an awesome sales enablement manager to share what works, what doesn't work for them in the industry. Today, joining me is David Kandel, Sales Enablement Manager for OptiMove. And Dave has a fascinating story, how he came into sales enablement. You want to share it? I mean, it's an awesome story of starting out as a language teacher and using what he's learned to have a great career in sales enablement. David, the floor is yours, my man.
Yeah, so I've been in adult education for a very long time. The first station that I ever entered into adult education was language teaching. So I was a Hebrew teacher for new immigrants to Israel. Um, After a while, I got kind of bored from teaching Hebrew, but the whole idea of education still appealed to me. And at the same time, Tel Aviv is a big tech hub. So I was looking for a way to combine tech and education. And I discovered this world called corporate L&D. And that was kind of my gateway into sales enablement, corporate L&D, all that good stuff. But yeah, my first stop was language education, and that in a way it gave me a perspective that I use till this day in what I do.
Well, let's dig into that. How does your first career teaching Hebrew translate, no pun intended, into sales enablement? Because it seems like you'd come from a place where they may not want to listen to what you have to say.
That's a good point. So to just start it off, like the way that you look at a language learner is you say that there's a novice speaker, an intermediate speaker, and an advanced speaker. And this person who's learning a new language, you expect them to be able to do different tasks at different levels. Now, as when I entered into the corporate L&D space, I went to a company called Riskified. This is a fraud detection and protection SaaS company. What I noticed was that they wanted the reps to understand technology, but what they were actually doing is they were teaching them a new language. They were teaching them new concepts, new words. At the time, there was a lot of machine learning algorithms, different kind of terms from that world that they were needing to understand in order to then convey them to the customers. And I saw it as my role to get them fluent and proficient in the technology that they're selling. That was the first part of how I see sales being the same as learning a language.
So as you're dealing with new sales teams, how are you applying that novice, intermediate language learner to somebody that's in sales? What are some of those leverageable skill sets as a teacher that you're bringing along?
So, you know, the first part is just identifying where the learner is at, right? Like where they are in their journey and what's the next task that I can expect them to do. Because before you can walk, you need to be able to crawl, and before you run, you need to be able to walk. So really identifying the tasks that you ask the rep to do. So for example, before doing a full demo of the product, I want to make sure that they first, understand, let's say, a single topic within there. And before they do that single topic, I want to make sure that they understand all the different terminology that the product has. For example, in our product at OptiMove, we have a term for segments or audiences. We call them target groups. Now, it's a minor difference, right? Like anybody can kind of understand that when you're talking about a target group, you're talking about an audience of customers. But those kind of things can get you really hung up. Once you don't understand an acronym or once you don't understand a term, your mind stops working. It stops listening to what's coming after that acronym or after that term. So our onboarding process is all about understanding the 10, 20, 30 different terms that we feel like that if they don't understand, they'll just be outside the conversation. Once they understand those terms, they can also start presenting in the demo or in the pitches that they do using the language that we're putting out there.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's one of the big things that I do as a language teacher in the world of sales. I can keep going on different stuff like that.
Please, this is the whole point of it. So I guess just like with language, you're making sure, okay, this guy knows how to say it. He knows how to use tense. How do you progress from there? Because you've also got a very interesting way that you've gotten sales teams to buy into what you're dishing out. So do you want to dig into how you earned and leveraged the trust that you have with those teams?
So I think the story there, when I got to OptiMove, obviously this was my first purely sales enablement role. Before that, I dealt with sales, but I was never in sales, and I was also not strictly in sales enablement. I was an instructional designer in corporate learning and development. I did some projects here and there, but I didn't have, sales teams, they like to learn from salespeople. And it was hard earning their trust. And I remember when I was starting out, every time I would talk and every time I would say something, I would give a caveat and I would say, I'm not really in sales. You guys are the experts. This is my opinion. Okay.
Did they instantly tune out?
I think overall I'm a nice, smart guy. So I would say it wasn't harmful, but it wasn't helpful either. But at a certain point, what happened was that sales leadership started asking me for my opinion. And I think that's where I really started to build the confidence in voicing what I think they should do or what I think they shouldn't do. And really that kind of built my credibility up with the team. Another thing that really helped me build my credibility is that every time I meet a new hire to the sales team, I expose them to our product and I take them into the product and they have to go in and build a campaign and really use the product. And I think that kind of positions me as the expert on the product. Obviously, there's very advanced kind of features and functionalities that I'm not familiar with, but I know the basics very well. So at the beginning point, when they're just coming into the company and they're getting they're starting to learn about the product, I'm the first kind of person that gives them that access point. And when we were talking earlier, I told you that I compare this to the process of imprinting. When a baby chick or a baby duckling, they pop out of the egg, the first creature that they see becomes their parent, their mother or whatever. So I'm that first person that they see around the product. So for them, in a way, I'm always kind of like the authority in the product. And that's the second thing that I do. So the first thing is just credibility from leadership. Second thing is just be the authority early on. And the third thing that I do, which I think is valuable for, let's say, non-sales enablers that don't come from a sales background, in a way, I represent the theory or the methodology. So right now we're using the demo to win methodology. So I'm the embodiment of that methodology. I'm not David. I represent what demo to win is or what medpic is. So when I'm on demo simulation and I give my notes, in a way, I'm saying, if you were to do this strictly by the demo to win approach, these are the things that you would want to do different, or these are the things that you did well. Same with, medpic or qualify. If we're speaking, I would say something strictly from the medpic perspective, you haven't qualified them with metrics or something like that. And then they recognize me as an authority over the product. They recognize me as an authority, as like the embodiment of the methodology of the theory, and they know that sales leadership listens to what I say. Put those three things together, and me being kind of like a likable guy, it's I won them over.
It's a good way to win them over. I mean, you don't come with sales experience, so I would think a typical sales rep, especially leadership, might look at that and scratch their heads as to whether or not you're somebody they should be buying into, but it looks like you've done all the things right. As a sales leader or as a sales enablement leader, tomato, as you work with these guys and you see an ever-changing landscape, what are some of the things you'd wish would disappear? Maybe start with some buzzwords that you're hearing a lot of that make no sense and you wish would go the way of the dodo bird.
The big buzzword, obviously, of our day and age is AI. And this is something that we all need to reckon with in one way or another. Now, I think that at the point that we're at right now, there is a lot of work being done that's not necessarily that's not focused enough in order to make AI a game changer. Because AI was a very kind of like it is the way that it kind of happened was grassroots, right? It wasn't like the company bought ChatGPT and then everybody started using it. Everybody started using ChatGPT and then the company was like, okay, if
Let's
one of
do
our
it.
yeah, if one of our employees isn't doing it, then they're doing things at half capacity. So there's like this bottom up approach that I think worked really well for this first wave of generative AI and LLMs. The thing is that right now we're at a point where everybody is just kind of frantic, I think, with prompt engineering and making sure that they don't miss any new technological advances. And I think that it is justified, but I think that the ways that we're kind of going about it are, I don't know how helpful they are. And I'll explain. For example, custom GPTs. Do you have any or a lot of experience with creating GPTs?
Got a few. As an AI enabled sales coach, we've got our language down on prompting.
Okay. So creating apps using like I think it's called Lovable. We have something in Israel called Base 44. Those tools aren't at full maturity yet. And because there's hype around AI, we want to kind of like build things with them that I'm not sure will really be useful. What will be useful? What do I think will definitely be useful? One is AI that's already implemented in tools that you have in your tech stack. So, for example, looking at the capabilities that Gong has, or looking at the AI capabilities that your CRM has, whatever CRM you're using, or looking at the AI capabilities that your LMS or enablement platform has. I think those courses of actions will have more impact than trying to, build an app, invent the wheel, try to build a custom GPT that will do all your work. That's the first thing. And not to say even more so in whatever Slack, Teams, whatever you're using already has kind of like AI functionalities that's the first thing that I think that you need to master.
It's funny. I was about to lead to my next question of what's your biggest pet peeve in sales. Is it safe to assume it's young kids coming in and trying to prompt their way out of work?
Oh no, my biggest pet peeve in sales is discovery. And I'm sure that a lot of people
Go
listen.
for it. Yes. Biggest pet peeve. Let's get into it because it's mine as well. What
Okay.
qualifies for it, what they think looks substantial, how they map from there. But the floor is yours, my man. Let's go.
I mean, discovery, it's hard because you as a salesperson, you want to present and you feel like it could go in a wrong way if you ask too many questions or if you seem like you don't have something to say. But in my experience, what I've seen in a lot of sales calls is that we're not listening to our prospects. We're not trying to solve their problems. We're trying to sell them, which is fine. Like that's what you're there to do. But there is kind of like this human in front of you that is trying to get from point A to point B and just trying to understand the situation. This comes down to a few things, okay? This is in my analysis. This comes down to one, active listening. That's just a basic skill that you want from a salesperson, right? To be able to ask clarifying questions, to be able to give new insights on something that the person said and not force their own agenda on them.
Agenda. Jinx, you're up.
Yeah. The other thing is I'd call it like a business aptitude. So the thing that I didn't understand about sales beforehand, especially SaaS sales or, like very enterprise sales with lots of stakeholders, is that you need to understand your customer's business and you need to understand what they're trying to achieve with your solution. And you need to understand what role it's going to play in their business. Now, obviously, once you're embedded enough in some industry that you're selling to, you know these things, they come intuitively. But let's say you're talking to a new sub vertical, or let's say you're talking to, a company that's a bit out of the ordinary. You may end up making a lot of assumptions that don't serve the solution that you're trying to sell. Let's say you're selling a CRM um, you're selling a CRM to some kind of travel company, and you don't understand that they don't make money from The hotels, they make money from the flights, or vice versa. They don't make money from the flights, they make money from the hotels. You really need to understand from talking to your clients and talking to them and understanding their pains and understanding their solutions. And I know this is something that people say all the time, but it's my pet peeve if I see a rep not asking a question.
Do you guys use any roadmaps to help them become better active listeners, or any suggestions you have for sellers to help them at least understand the basics?
I'll boil it all down to one thing, which is clarifying questions. Okay. When you say, for example, you asked me, right? You asked me, do you have a road plan for active listening or giving them the basics? When you say the basics, what do you mean? That kind of clarifying question does so much. Okay, what does it do? And I'll give you another example that I think is even better. We had a customer come to us and say, we're looking for a platform that is at the forefront of AI. Great. That's, music to our ears. But wait, when you say AI, what do you actually mean? Do you mean generative AI, right? Like writing prompts and putting that and making that your modus operandi for doing everything? Or do you mean decisioning AI, deciding what campaign to send to what customer? That kind of stuff, I think, is riddled with assumptions. Those kind of terms, especially buzzwords, are riddled. And when you ask that clarifying question, you're doing a few things. One thing, you're getting time to think about your position. Right? They say that they're looking for AI, or they're asking what kind of AI capabilities do you have, and you're asking a question in return. You're buying time to think of your answer. That's the first thing that you're getting. Second thing that you're getting is that you're getting a more precise lens to give your answer, right? Like, what are they actually looking for? You can answer that. And third is you're digging into their pain. I like to ask, I think another good question around clarification is what at the bottom of this question? Why are you asking me this question? What's scaring you? What's frightening you? Right? Under every kind of like question they ask you, there's this past experience that they're trying to overcome, and you just need to capture that and make sure that that comes up in your next meetings with them.
I forgot how great that is of a question to ask. Why are you asking me this question? Do you find that it's generational, just because younger generations of sellers now are just not good at conversation, that they look at discovery as a checklist?
I wouldn't say it's generational. No, I think I'm not a very big believer in generations. The whole Gen Z, millennial. There's it's basically a marketing ploy for marketers.
I'll agree with you. I mean, I knew Moses when he was just a sheep herder, so I'll go with this. No generation things exist.
So I think that you might encounter younger sellers that are less confident, and then they'll be prone to to lean on checklists or just kind of like talking their way through things rather than listening. But I've seen younger reps that are just as conversational as older reps.
Now, your team is global, or are you all this team out of Tel Aviv, the sellers?
No, we have sellers in US, LATAM, Europe, all over.
So this is the point of the podcast. I throw you out on Front Street. Who are we calling out today? Great sellers on your team. Who's the up and coming superstar? How do we get some kids some notoriety today for all the good reasons?
I'll tell you what, I love them all. And I don't want to, single anyone out and then have anyone else kind of like say, wait, why didn't you mention me? Suffice to say, I really think the team at OptiMove, I don't know if they're special, but they are a great team to work with, as far as enablement is concerned. They're passionate about their work. They're also passionate about their learning. So I'll just say, in general, it's a really great team to work with.
What's one area you'd like to see them improve on?
Except for discovery.
Except for discovery.
This isn't not necessarily them, but us as a company. We need to get better at prospecting and pipeline generation. It's just,
Tale's oldest time.
Exactly. The more that you get in there, the more you can practice, the better you can get, the more you can qualify. Basically, if you have a rep that is constantly busy with with opportunities, then that's everything else just falls into place.
Okay. Do you coach for belief? And if so, how so?
I have to say I don't. I don't coach the belief. In general, even though I'm personally attracted to the spiritual and kind of self-help, I think in my role as sales enablement, I try to keep it very basic, very kind of focused on the skills and the knowledge, right? And I'm not saying I shouldn't focus on belief. I'm just saying like that's what I focus on, and I leave that part of their self-development up to them a little bit.
Okay. Last question, we'll call it a day. Something you know now you wish you knew on your first day in enablement that you wish you can go back and turn the clock on.
I don't know if it's something that I didn't know, but it's something that I wish I did. I wish I just spent like a month shadowing the reps. I really wanted to just start working. I was hot to prove myself, let out deliverables, get everything moving as quickly as I could. I didn't take the time that in hindsight I should have to see the things through their perspective, understand the processes that don't work, the processes that do work.
Appreciate that. I can't thank you enough for spending 30 minutes talking through all things sales enablement. Any suggestions or tips outside of shadowing your sales team that you might have for someone getting their feet wet in the sales enablement pool today?
I think one thing is finding community. There's the Sales Enablement Collective. I don't get commission from them, but they've been very helpful for me. I've made a lot of contacts through there. I've learned a lot from there. It really gives you a sense of what's out there. I also, if you're coming to sales enablement from the world of education, definitely take a look at LinkedIn Learning. There's a lot of courses on instructional design and corporate L&D. That's where I usually go. And yeah, just do the work, put your head down, and if you should be there, then you'll stay there.
Dude, you said it yourself. Do the work. Looks like you have from day one, and seeing the success of your team. You've done all the right things the right way. I can't thank you enough for spending the time to join us today. Thanks again, my friend. This was awesome. Really appreciate it. Great way to start a Monday. At least from my end. You're in Tel
Thanks,
Aviv. It's
Joe.
half day done already.
Yeah, we're almost in the middle of the week.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again for joining us today, David.
Bye.